Great.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are here with the most beautiful global television host, conscious lifestyle expert, and rockstar shaman, Alyson Charles. Yay!
Oh.
We are. Woo! Yes! Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And she's been so gracious to be part of this super beautiful empowerment type of project that I felt like putting together. Alyson, how are you doing?
I'm feeling great. I have been going through the last 2 months of total rebirth, realchemization. So I am grounded. I know who I am more than ever. And it's come with, just last night I was like slobbering on my floor and going through like an initiation process, but like, it's been incredible. I'm doing great.
Amazing.
What about you?
I've been doing great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I've been feeling a lot of magic energy, very much in alignment. When you're really in alignment and everything, you're just at the right place, doing the right thing. And but you know that it's not even you. It's just like, you're just being used as the tool for the divine. And you just feel so synchronously, like even you're just where we are right now. It's just been feeling incredible. So
Great.
I'm like oozing with gratitude, but I'm getting so excited to ask you these questions.
Me too, because I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So I'm like, oh boy.
Oh boy. Okay. So we'll start you off really easy. Okay. So how did you get into your lifestyle, and would love for you to share something that has helped you along your journey that would be of great value for the audience.
Sure. So, I got into this lifestyle of being a very public figure, medicine woman, shaman, conscious light worker, whatever we want to call it. Essentially, if I keep it really real, because that is my planetary mission, and that's what I signed on for with my soul contract. And I have been a mystic and a sage and a shaman for hundreds or thousands of lifetimes. So, this path and this way of moving through Earth is one that is my thing. However, this lifetime is bringing with it things that, as many lifetimes as I've done it, it's never worked in this fashion, being in the modern age, being here during a time of global planetary awakening. So it has been a really, really fascinating journey. So that's the broad strokes. Like, I got into it because that's what I'm sent down here on Earth to do. But in more earthly talk, I guess I transitioned. My pre-awakening life journey was really enmeshed and very elite athleticism. I was a national champion distance runner.
Amazing.
Yeah. So my dad was my distance running coach, and my family owned fitness center. So I was born into that lifestyle,
Well,
Yeah.
Now you're a spiritual Olympic athlete.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And that is a lot of what's been occurring is like, that upbringing and that lifestyle was all about like external validation. And now it's about internal truth. So it's, going from competition, being bred to win, to compete, to now transitioning on this path of oneness and interconnectedness. And so it's been very interesting, like being on both ends of the spectrum. And so from national champion runner, ran for the University of Alabama, starting to understand that wasn't really my truth. I became a head trainer at a gym in downtown Orlando, and that's when Universe started with their assistance to pluck me more onto my authentic path in the entertainment industry. So a person came into the gym and was like, you should be my radio show co-host. So that people ask me like, how'd you get your start in radio and TV? And I'm just like, I wish I had a formula for you. But literally a man walked into a gym.
It was looking for you. It was just more of like, you just were like at the right place and you just needed to start walking with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Universe was like, okay, because I didn't want to resist if athletics in that world was my truth. I didn't want to one of my archetypes is the rebel. So I didn't want to be like rebelling against something that was for me. So I did become a Division I college coach, and I did become a trainer to make sure. And after all that happened, Universe is like, will you get out of here and get over here? So So yes, did radio, was a hip hop morning show host for many years, which was
Amazing.
fun. Yeah, that was incredible. And then switched to TV. And it was during my time in television that I had my moment in time where I woke up. And so, yeah, like that's the winding road answer to how I landed being a public figure shaman. Yeah.
Amazing. That's an incredible journey. And that is one that I just love, because I find that there's so many people that are just beginning sort of, this oneness path, and I think it's just beautiful because they always say, well, how did you do it? Or how did this person do it? And I say, everyone has a unique blueprint of their soul's mission here. So it's just so beautiful that they were like, all right, now it's time. We're going to put you in here. We're going to,
Yeah.
And it's ever evolving, right? It's like
ever evolving. And that is the thing, that is the key. So back to me sharing like a crucial, vital tip or whatever, I'll say that in a second, but I call this Earth School, and that is one of my big pillar foundational medicines that is to be delivered out to the world, is that, like, especially in our society and Western culture, like this facade, this illusion of like, I am well all the time and I know everything. That is not why we're here. We're here to constantly evolve, and the degree to which we can evolve is truly infinite. So it's just constantly about like humility, releasing ego, exploration of self, embracing ourselves and whole. I'm still continuously doing that work of like, of being witness to other shadow components and bringing them to the forefront and like hugging them. For a while, I was like chanting every morning and holding hands with Timmy, and Timmy is like very challenging. Timmy gets me. He's like who was with me before the gun would go off before a race, and like the extreme terror of the nervousness of, am I going to win? Am I going to be good enough? And like that clenching constriction energy, the fear-based energy, is Timmy. And I only got to know Timmy on a conscious level, like in the last couple of months. And at first I thought I needed to exercise Timmy, and that he, like, I was like, oh, I must defeat Timmy. And then I realized, oh my God, no, it's not about that. Timmy, he has to be included. And when I started to talk to him and like with love and say, I understand where you're coming from. Oh my gosh, thank you for trying to protect me. And then each morning at my altar, I would sit and I would bring him in and we would hold hands and we'll chant together. And then on days where I know that he might have a tendency to like do his thing, I talk to him and I say, today, where do you feel like going today? Where's your happy place? And it's typically a beach with a virgin, like mojito. And so we have a deal.
Oh, he's an island guy. Island fun. Okay.
He really enjoys the sun, the exfoliation. And so we sent him to the beach. So the practical tips that I would say that have been most crucial and vital is honestly the surrender. So, with this process of infinite exploration and growing, for me, I am just in a constant state of surrender every morning, every step, every breath. Sometimes it's like minute by minute. Sometimes it's like the bigger categories where I send it up, but like constantly just surrendering up to source, consciousness, divine, and saying like, I am handing every bit of this to you. I release this from me fully now. I give it to you. Please show me the way. And when I am in alignment with that trust of that unseen but yet very real world, like that is where I operate.
Oh my goodness. You just spoke to my soul, girl, because that is beautiful. Surrender is part of this whole process where it just makes you realize how much there is something above us. By the way, so sorry about the dings above us.
You're a busy lady.
I am blowing up. And for it, yeah, I have a lot going on. And I wanted to like make sure I don't get this ADD where I jump around. But to get back to what you said with that incredible tip with surrendering. surrendering is the most incredible thing, because there is something bigger than us that I feel like our ego tends to really make us believe, like, no, it's just us and we should win and we're always right and we always have it under control, and no matter what, we can't let anyone in because we figured it all out. And it's like, no, there is something massively big going on, and it's part of this global consciousness, where, you know, I'm not even sure how you began sort of like surrendering, because I know that was like, must have been like, especially being from the competitive background.
Oh, right? Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. I did not go down. I did not rise up easily, I should say.
Right.
I almost said I didn't go down easily, but I didn't rise up easily because, yeah, it was like a perfect storm. I was bred to be this, you know, high performance endurance athlete that never gives up, never stops. I'm a Capricorn. I'm a 1 in numerology. You know, It's like all of these components to keeping me like eye on the prize and you never stop. And so that's what was happening with my relationship that I was with my ex-fiance. We were on a over 16-year journey, and I was not willing to stop and to cease, and like the suffrage level just only kept rising, and the intensity of the pain and the confusion and the cycle that we were in only kept building and widening. And I just, for so many different reasons, one, my power being so great and the gifts and medicine in me being so magnificent and potent, that was one of the reasons it was easier for me and safer for me to fixate on him and his problems, and like focusing all the efforts to the relationship and what's going on here. And my body was trying to get my attention. You know, I was having panic attacks, anxiety issues, eczema, like all sorts of different things where, you know, our bodies are so loving and so intelligent. It was trying to get my attention, but I just wasn't willing. So it all built to a divine intervention moment that happened like 4.5 years ago in Brooklyn, which I'm happy to share with you if you want. But yes, yeah, it all built and built and built to that moment when that was where, for the first time in my life, and that awakening moment is when I truly came to understand surrender. And that's where it all began for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing. I was actually trying to read up a little bit about the awakening for you, and there wasn't too much info. It was more like I had an awakening, and I then went into this part, and I was like, okay, so I was like, maybe some of my energy will resonate with her, because this journey is one awakening journey, period, is, I feel like, I don't know about you, but my journey made me feel like I was losing my mind, like losing my shit.
Yes, because it's a total deconstruction of self, you know, of the limiting stories, the limiting beliefs, the falsehoods, the illusions, the denials, the egoic protective eggshell that we had been in. When that freaking shell gets blasted and obliterated, and that shell no longer exists, yeah, you're like, it's totally topsy-turvy central, which is why a lot of us, more and more of us way showers and light workers, you know, because we're here during the time where the entire planet is going through this rise of shadow to shift into light, into truth, into consciousness, and this whole awakening that's happening for the planet. It's you know, going to take a lot of us who have already experienced that same process within ourselves, you know, to help guide people along the hero's journey, you know, because it's not for the faint of heart, and we all need assistance. Like, I'm still continuously in my surrender process. When I get awarenesses and aspects around myself that I know need to grow, evolve, and shed and transcend, I'm like, okay, I'm aware, you know, surrender, send to me what I need. And every single time, the practitioner, the method, the person that I need to work with for those specific components comes in. So yeah,
wow, that is beautiful. I love that. Surrender to me what I need. Wow, that is beautiful. Beautiful to a whole nother level, which kind of leads me into the second question. So when you heal from the hurt, right, the abuse, neglect, and lack of love from the inside, you will stop attracting the type of people who bring those issues on the outside. If our life is a magnet and we are attracting only positive people in our life, what techniques can we practice to overcome toxic families or friends who don't accept our boundaries with not wanting to be around those people who have brought on those difficult traumas? What am
Wow. Like, let me get the Hanuman bell. Hanuman would be a great guide for that. He's all about like the healthy boundaries. Okay. Ring a ding ding. So, okay, that was such a beautiful poetic question. So whittle it down for me just a little bit. Like, you're wanting to know how to, when you've experienced something that pertains to a specific person. Like for me, when I was going through that 16-year journey with my ex, we were in that cycle of insanity where you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, you know? So over that 16-year plus journey, we were both athletes at Alabama. So we met very young. And so, you know, we grew up together in a lot of senses. And, you know, when I was in Florida, we were not together. Then we got back together. Then when I was switching from radio to TV and I moved to New York, we were getting back together because the company was based out east. And, you know, we got engaged and unengaged. And then when we were unengaged, I moved to Brooklyn on my own. Then he came back having revelations. And so it was just this like, good, you know, thing. And so even with me, see, what was trippy is for my whole life, like I was born into health and wellness, right? I am a well person, right?
Yes.
Right. So, you know, and I'm even on television, you know, giving tips and all of these things. But it wasn't until my awakening moment where I realized like the truth of me and all the work that I had to do. So with him, we kept trying to make things work, and it took a divine intervention moment. And that moment where everything happened for me, we were going to go back up publicly as a couple again, and universe called in all the helpers to stop it. They were like, they're going to try this again. This like has to stop. This is getting, you know, this must end. So when I went to tell him a few more moments to finish up getting ready and then we can go, he was asleep on the couch. So I didn't want to disturb him. And as I was walking back through my bedroom to finish getting ready, I became clairaudient, and the voice, you know, told me to stop and turn around. And I could feel this energetic force moving with me and working with me. And I saw his phone, and that energy, you know, like helped walk me over to the phone. The same voice said to me, brace yourself. What you're about to see is going to rock your world. And this energy, a lot like automatic spirit writing, when you can channel and you might write with a different hand or different language. It was like the same force moving through me. And I punched in 4 numbers that I did not know to his phone. His phone opened. And I saw, for me, this was the moment divinely designed for me to wake me up, you know, based upon all my past lives, building to this moment. What does my body, what does my being need to shatter the egoic shell and to lift the veil for me? Someone else might go through a moment where they discover the betrayal and the infidelity, and they finally wake up to the truth of the 16-year journey and the way that I did, and may not be impacted or affected in the way that I was. But this was my moment based upon thousands of other lifetimes and karmic energies designed for me to shatter all of it. And it did. And I say the same moment that dropped me to my knees is the moment that lifted the veil. The degree to which I fell is the degree to which I've since risen and continue to. And so from that moment, he could feel the energy, because I was discovering, you know, such graphic proof that, you know, there was no choice for me to walk that same path again based upon what I was discovering. And it woke him up, and he came in. I was just so surrounded by angels, and they kept me calm, and I obviously asked him to leave. And it took that degree of a moment for my, you know, my soul was ready to a certain degree to see the truth, but it also took that divine intervention. And that was the first time in that 16-year karmic journey with him where I knew it had to be done. All those other periods where we were not together, we were still in contact, and there were still these cords and these threads and these exchanges and things going on. And for the first time ever in almost 2 decades with him, I was like, this ceases completely, clearly, completely done, zero communication. And for someone, so then after that veil lifted for me, and I flew to be with my family in Indiana to process everything, you know, because like you said, you think you're going crazy, you have no idea up from down, you have no idea what is going on. And universe was showing me, the clairvoyance was coming into play at that point, and they were showing me my life and my journey with him without any of the illusion. So I was seeing these scenarios in light and in truth, and just having mind-blowing epiphany after mind-blowing epiphany for like 4 days straight. And it was the hardest thing, because I was seeing the truth, not just about him and us, but about me and earth and everything. And I was seeing my role, because that's the key. You have to start taking responsibility for your role in it too. And for me, there was codependency. And so it was terrifying for me. And that codependency goes back to like childhood and, you know, all these things that I've since worked on and discovered. But yeah, I had to set, and it was terrifying for me to say like, no more, because that energetic cord that I had been living off of for my entire life, that was my norm, that codependent cord that attached to him, I knew it had to sever and go. But at mind, body, spirit, soul level, it was very discombobulating and terrifying, because I had no idea what was on the other side of not having that feed. So for me, I had to set the boundaries of like, we can have no more communication. And I just began on my quest to heal myself. And so this shamanism and all of this stuff didn't start from a place of like, oh, shamanism sounds interesting, let me go to a shaman school. It all started from, I see the truth in me, and I have a lot of work to do, surrendering and saying, I clearly need help and need support, and I'm handing this all to you, please show me the way. And that they started showing me, I was working with, you know, leech therapists and psychotherapists and other shamans, and they would just send to me for where my soul was at and what my soul needed at that juncture in my path and journey. They would send me the medicine people and the healers and the practices that I needed. And it's just continuously been that for me ever since. So, you know, he, for the most part, honored that. And that has been what is needed for this trajectory on my awakening journey. It finally got to the place where I had to set the boundaries of no communication. So I'm sure there's other parts of this question, though, that you want to keep feeling into. So
yeah. And thank you, by the way, Alyson. I see you bearing it all out for me and for the audience. So much gratitude, seriously, because I feel like you're like, okay, let's let the waterfall come out, and like, let's see the beautiful waterfall. Before we see the beautiful waterfall, we've got to see where it began. So that's incredible already. Did you want to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, it's a part of my truth. Like it's important for me that I share it with as much like honor and respect for all parts of it as I can. But at the same time, like it's my life and it's my journey and it's my truth. And that is, you know, and it gets asked a lot, because to go from, you know, a hip hop morning show host or an athlete to a shaman, and everybody, you know, a lot of people want to understand that jump, and what was the moment, like what happened for you. And that happens to be the moment, and it happens to involve another person, and it happens to involve a very long journey of a relationship with someone else. And so it's like, you know, it's that balance of expressing my truth and what happened with me, but, you know, doing my best to share it with honor. Yeah.
Yes, and I love that, and I'm so grateful for that. So, okay, so now let's say you've basically decided no communication, fabulous, okay? And now you don't have that in your life, and you've worked on yourself and you healed yourself. Now, what if you have people who are like third parties, if you will, who still have sort of a relationship with that person that, you know, I guess you could say was part of your soul's evolution, if you will.
Right. Yes.
And what happens if now it's almost, I keep hearing like, oh, well, the cycle, like you have to see these people again, the ones that were part of your soul's evolution, to end the cycle, right? I always hear that, ending the cycle. But what if you are like, you've done all the work, you've taken responsibility, you've let go, you've let God, you've surrendered, and you don't want to see them.
Yeah.
You know, or you don't even want to engage in that sort of falsehood of your own soul's evolution, because you're in an authentic place now. And so even you know, what if like the person that you were involved with, what if they didn't work on themselves? What if all this time that you took to have this moment of awakening, they stayed the same, they stayed stagnant?
That happens a lot.
Right. So is it fair to sort of be put in a position where you feel like, hey, these are my boundaries, like I'm at this place where I love quality people in my life, and I no longer resonate with the old, I know that was part of me, but that's no longer me, if that makes any sense? How do you place that when people don't get that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect, I mean, that's part of being on this path. When you're committed to the hero's journey and you're committed to rising and expanding and growing, that has been one of the aspects of the path that I've had to do a lot of work around myself. You know, that younger, you know, people pleaser, perfectionist, you know, athlete, whatever in me has really had to come to terms with, not everyone is going to understand what the heck I'm saying. Not everyone, you know, and it also, because we are expressing things that are facilitating the growth and the rise and the shift of the planet, we are going to be tending to say things that are new concepts and new notions for people a lot, because we are at the forefront of just bringing these ancient wisdoms back, right? And we're just the conduits and instruments for that. But that piece of it, of understanding and accepting that there, at least right now, it's ever shifting, and as we know, people are waking up more and more by the millisecond. But at this juncture, there will probably be more of a majority who don't fully resonate and understand where you're coming from. They can't fully understand what you've experienced because they have yet to have their own awakening. So there has to be a place of just acceptance and staying in your truth and continuing to honor your truth. I think there is another thing of like, I mean, of course, like these kinds of scenarios span the whole spectrum, but also knowing that like you are the home and creator of your vibration, and that no matter what situation or person or energy you might be, you know, faced with or surrounded by on the subway or whatever it is, you do have an energetic, you know, responsibility, and you can keep your frequency even by being around someone. You can hold your frequency to a degree to where you will not be negatively impacted or affected by that person. But it takes practice, and it takes practice along the way. But I'm not saying that you should, you know, place yourself into those positions. I'm just saying, know that you have the power within you, that if that happens, you can continue to rise above, and you'll be like vibrating and operating at a frequency that if there is dysfunctional or toxic lower realm energy happening with that person, you can be in the same place with them and be operating from a place in which that energy cannot touch you.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I feel like that's such an empowering thing. And what kinds of things can you do in terms of staying at that frequency, that high frequency that we're talking about, where, I don't know, you're in New York right now, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard about the bomb that went off,
Yeah.
and then this another what we call terrorist attack, and it's gotten so horrible and numbing that we hear about these and also all these other things that we'll talk about. But how do we sort of rise above in those things, that these are things that are out of our control? Like somehow we can say, oh, well, we're just not going to never go on the subway. That's unrealistic. You know how much traffic there is in New York?
Yeah.
It's like it's so much more convenient to go on the subway or the LIRR or whatever it is. So how do we rise above in terms of those situations where there are people who, I don't want to say they're bad people, but they're not awakened.
Yeah, they're not, doing the greatest things. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I think there's a lot of different things. I think one is just connecting to, I write a monthly energy forecast, and one of the main components for the forecast for this month is really being in our bodies and making the priority tending to our own personal power rituals. And some of the ways we can be in our body more and be in our power more is like through moving and connecting to like songs on my Spotify. I've got all these playlists that have these like ancient medicine songs where you can connect and move to the rhythm of those songs and let that ancient wisdom grow inside of you through song. Singing is such a powerful connector to our highest vibration and the truth of who we are. So whether that's just like having fun with your friends and singing like Christmas songs together, or 80s and 90s karaoke, or chanting in the morning, or channeling, getting your drum and your rattle out and like letting whatever mantras or sounds or sacred songs that want to just naturally move from your soul. There's all sorts of ways that you can express and connect to your power through song, through movement, through these. And I have I sit at my altar every single morning, and I've got these different practices that are mine, that just right first thing in the morning connect me to my truth, get me in sync with the natural rhythms of the planet, with the universe. And I am operating at my ultimate. But so I think going within and finding your own personal power rituals is key. But the other thing is, like, you can't be afraid to surrender and ask for divine support. So, knowing first and foremost that all this power and wisdom and light lives within you, but that we're also so ever presently supported, and yet we have free will. So they wait for us to express, like, I want to work with you, please help me. So whether that's getting to know your core power animal totem, which I do a lot of journeys to guide people to connect with their spirit animals, or if there's a certain archangel, like the process that I was going through last night that was super intense for me right here in my apartment was, this part of this rebirthing process. And right away, when I could feel the medicine energy waves coming in, now I'm equipped. I understand the second they start to move in, I know what's about to happen. The first couple years ago, I had no clue what was going on. They took me down. It was so intense. I started to feel it yesterday, and right away I felt like 2 pumps in of the medicine waves, and I was like, okay, I know what this is. So I instantly called in intuitively. I don't work with them like all the time, but intuitively I called in Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, and then I said to God, if there are any other guides that can assist and help me in this process for my highest, greatest good, send them in now. And then I rode those waves that were happening to me for about 35 minutes. So it's also like, what speaks to you? Is it the fairies and the elves? Is it shamanism and the elements and Mother Earth and the animal totems? do you just want to connect to God? Is there an ascended master? Jesus happens to be my main love and light guide, not for religious purposes, but
it's very strange, Alyson, because I don't know why I resonate so much with you. I mean, obviously I know why, you're amazing, but it's I was reading about how, first of all, you said about the Black Panther, and it's so weird because the Black Panther was like, I used to dream about it. Like, it was like, I would dream that I was walking a Black Panther, like on a leash, and I was walking it like I was walking a dog. And I would tell my friends this because I was always into dreams and everything. And they were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I recently saw another Black Panther in a painting. This woman, she looked like she was walking on Park Ave, but she was walking her Black Panther. And I was like, oh my goodness, there it is. And then I read about what you were saying, and you just said about Jesus. The same thing with me. I was baptized Catholic, but my parents, they were like, listen, we're going to baptize you because this is our thing that we believe in. But in terms of your own beliefs and your own faith and your own spirituality, figure it out. And I was like, okay, great. That's awesome. And that, when you said I'm not religious, or that's not who, that's not why I believe in Jesus, I completely resonate with that, because Jesus manifested in my journey, not because I was taught that, or that's the right thing to do, or what. It's just, that's what ended up happening. So I completely resonate with you.
Yes. And you want to know what else is? The Black Panther is my core animal totem. Like,
yeah.
So
that's why I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is like a tribe thing. I feel like the galactic family, it's
the galactic family. Yeah. And Jesus, like these guides. Yeah. So some of them, like with the guided journeys that I take people on, so you're consciously setting the intention to journey, to connect. So you know that that's going to happen. But then some of these other guides, like Jesus, for me, he made his way in, and began to reveal himself to me. And so that it's all really wild.
Man, I'm going to cry, because that's just beautiful. Like, Jesus is someone, it's this beautiful light energy, and I understand completely what you're saying. And every time I even think about it, I start tearing up, because it's just like such a powerful thing.
Yeah. So for me, I work with him in regards, like in terms of an ascended master. He's my main love and light guide, and then my Black Panther is my main core power animal totem. Yeah.
Well, a shout out to Jesus for yay. Amazing. Okay, so let's move on to number 3, which, by the way, thank you for all of this. You have such great energy. I'm sure it's because of all the work that you do.
You too.
So I feel it. When you are going through tumultuous times and are having low vibrational thoughts, and you find that stillness inside of you to just be the observer, how then will you ever confront the core of your issues?
So I might have missed that midpoint. What was right before? How then do you confront your core issues?
When you're having low vibrational thoughts and you find that stillness inside of you to just be the observer, how then will you ever confront the core of your issues? I've gotten this question a lot of times from my clients. I went to Costa Rica a year ago to see Eckhart Tolle. And he's always talking about, how we just have to observe that our thoughts are not us, that they're just things. They're like a river, they flow out of us. But then, of course, I had a friend of mine who asked the question. She's like, but how, if we're still and we're just observing, how do we ever confront what the issue is? So
yeah, it is a balance. Like, okay, so I'm trying to think of a concrete good example. So as we both know, relationships are our greatest teachers. And so I think a lot of times, there's a couple examples coming in. One, I think with the relationship thing, that might be the best one. So relationships then sometimes can show you the work that still needs to be done. So like you might be triggered. So something, you're in a new relationship and something happens and you're being triggered. But here's where I've been doing my work recently is when I'm being triggered and I'm like, okay, this, I'm feeling like fear. I'm feeling, well, whatever the thing that's coming up for me. But then I have to be the observer of what is truth, what is false, what is love, what is fear, what is the old paradigm, what is the new portal. And so I'm then observing myself. I'm feeling, and I'm being the conscious observer of what is coming up for me, and I'm aware, and then I'm the conscious observer of, like, so I'm in my body, but more so, I with what Eckhart is speaking to is like, you begin to, through these moments and these processes, like, to become this witness, this higher witness of yourself. So you are experiencing it, and I am feeling it, and I'm like, oh shit, like this, I'm being triggered AF, and like, it's really intense for me. So I'm feeling the intensities. However, my higher self is being witnessed to, and I'm just as, if not more, connected to her and her awareness and observance of the big picture. So I'm like truly experiencing it from two different vantage points, which I think is key. It's like, you want to be truly embodied and like truly letting yourself feel and go there, because that's key. You don't want to be like a spiritually bypassed person, but yet you do have to have a bit of a detached witness in order to have like the bigger perspective, and to not get swept up into these false stories and triggers. So I was like, okay, I'm being triggered. This feels real. It feels like he's doing X, Y, and Z to me. But yet, even though it felt real, from the observer point and from my deeper, truer soul knowingness and deeper, truer soul wisdom, I was clear that what I was feeling wasn't really true. Yes, what I was feeling was real and it was intense, but I'm like, this feels like old pattern. This feels like old program. This feels like old story. And if I want to keep going down this rebirth, down this more conscious, awakened path with this person, I have a choice right now to decide if I'm going to entertain the trigger and entertain going down that old past rabbit hole, or if I'm going to step forth and like engage in what I'm feeling with a new behavior and a new way. I hope some of what I'm saying is making sense.
Yes, it is. It's
okay.
Making sense.
Okay.
100. You were channeling. You were definitely in.
Okay.
Felt that. I felt that with such power, and I know that that question is going to be such an incredible question and answer for those who are hearing. So yes, it totally makes sense. And if you don't have any questions, you always can feel free to, we can talk more about this. This is for the audience. All right. So now this question. Oh, this question is a question that I myself don't resonate, but I have so many of my greatest friends ever, because love is our greatest teacher, right? And how can a love addict, right, find peace and love in their own solitude?
Beautiful question. Yeah, it's, that navigation is one that I think you have to just be so like compassionate with yourself around, just like with any navigation. For me, I have to watch the pre-awakening relationship that I had been in had codependency and addiction issues. And one of those addiction issues was like with sex addiction. And it was more on the other person's end of things, but I was a part of that functioning for many years. So for me, I now have to take such deep, patient time with myself and my processes. So, I was celibate for many years because as I was awakening and connecting to my truth, my self-love, my self-respect, my self-honor, I could not engage with anyone physically who I didn't feel truly saw me, who really, sees and honors me. And so I was celibate for a long time, but as I'm opening to love again, I'm just having to really take my steps at my pace. I'm moving so consciously and so slowly with each step, with each decision that I make, so that I know that each breath I'm taking is coming from me and my truth and not a codependent thread. So I know that each step that I'm taking to choose to interact and engage with someone in an honoring way physically, that engagement is happening from, purity and consciousness and divinity, and not from a dysfunctional, addictive thread. So with someone, who's a love addict, it's like, you can, first and foremost, know that you can find your way with this. Second of all, accept that it's going to be a process. Accept that it might feel challenging and trying at times. And there might be times where you're just like, oh, the work around this. Accepting that it's going to be a journey with you finding your way. And you'll start with acceptance and self-compassion through the process. When you start to dedicate and commit yourself to, your priority should be self-love practices and techniques. So maybe you do some research and feel into self-love practices and rituals, and the ones that resonate biggest and most deeply to your soul, you start to make a list of these self-care, self-love rituals, and you become dedicated to these every day, devoted to yourself and devoted to these practices. And the more you start to exercise and work that place of true personal internal self-love, the more rooted in trusting yourself and the more confident you will become in what it feels like to love yourself. And then when you start to engage with someone else, you can, again, with trusting yourself, you'll start to notice and feel the difference when anything from a place of dysfunction or addiction starts to come into play. They're different energy systems. And so it takes time, it takes patience, it takes deep compassion. But that for that person, it happens to be one of their karmic things, one of their incarnation things that they wanted to experience for their soul to evolve this lifetime. So it's not about beating yourself up or bashing oh my God, this sucks. It's this is part of your soul's evolutionary journey. The more you can accept it and accept it with compassion and just take your time and take your steps so consciously, the better. But you can find your way with these things. But it's practice, a lot of freaking practice.
Amazing. That is absolutely incredible. And I can't even co-sign on that because it's the truth. That's okay, which leads us to now that, let's say, most people tend to lose themselves when they fall in love. Losing yourself can be defined as a dead zone where you can no longer hear your intuition. Why do we stop listening to our intuition when we fall in love? And how can we prevent that from happening in the future?
Yeah. Wow.
I told you these are some dumb questions.
Thank God I didn't read these beforehand. I was like, I'm just going to plunge into the abyss with her. Okay. So yeah. Yes, I think it's there. You can lose yourself in a relationship for any myriad of reasons. Like the one that I referenced back in the beginning, the more So I lost myself in it because of, like, for one, it was shrouded in denial, but like that aspect of, if I just focus on him and his problems, then I don't have time to face myself. And so that's one example. I mean, like, if you are fearing your own light, if you're fearing your own gifts, your own magnificence, if there's any place of like resisting aligning with your mission, your calling, it's very easy to, especially a relationship is one of the strongest ways in which you can seek outside of yourself and get pulled away from yourself. So you can get lost in the relationship because you are scared of looking at yourself and doing the work that you need to do that will align you with your light, your gifts, and your power. You can get lost in a relationship for any of those addiction reasons we spoke of, the codependency, karmic reasons. I believe that everything is here is an instrument meant to awaken us further and to teach us. So, like, yeah, after my awakening, I had moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like, took 16 and a half years, like freaking all those 16 and a half years, I, could have been doing X, Y, and Z. And oh my God, why did it take so long? Well, it took so long because it took so long. It took so long because my soul, it wasn't time yet for me to see the truth. It took so long because my soul wasn't ready. It took 16 and a half years for my soul to be in a place of readiness, like, and just accepting that, it's part of a bigger picture, part of a divine design. So how you can not lose yourself. Yeah, it also goes back to some of the stuff that I touched on before just a minute ago of like just taking your time and like finding that balance of sacred personal time, room and time and space for you to breathe and to connect with your intuition and your wisdom. So I listen to different, like I have a hypnotherapy friend who created a personalized 20-minute meditation for me that reconnects me to me and source. So I listen to that every day. Journeying, I'll go and consult my guides, just different, all sorts of different mindfulness and meditation and journeying practices that I do that take me to hearing me, that take me to hearing and connecting and seeing from my third eye. So that I think is key. And then when you then go back into engagement with your significant other and sharing space with them, it's like you just, and when you're with a partner who also engages in these practices, that's the game changer for me.
Yes.
It's like, because you're both doing the work, you're both being willing to be transparent, being willing to be humble and open to hearing whatever it is that needs to be heard. But it's like, even when you're with two super, if there are two super awake people evolved in the equation, again, it's work, it's soul level work. And like, it's kind of always going to be a process. You're never going to like get to a point, a juncture on the hero's journey, on the awakening path where like, there's always work to be done.
So even if we want to take a vacation, we're still working on the vacation, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I have to be honest, like with the man that I am with now, like medicine person to medicine person, it can be really intense, because it's constant medicines being delivered back and forth. And as equipped as I feel.
You lit up though when you said that, like that constant. So it's almost as if like that's what, that's exactly what you need. That's part of like, you light up when you talk about him. Whoever he is, shout out to him. You do, you light up, and it does show that that's like, it's funny when we were talking about like the past and things like that, it was like, oh, okay, this is what I needed to learn. And then now that you're talking about like that, who's someone who's on your level, someone who's doing the work, who's like, yeah, I'm a student too, and is providing the medicine back and forth. Oh, it's just so beautiful.
It's the most powerful thing on the planet. And it's funny, he and I are dedicated to this path, but it got the medicine exchange was so potent and so powerful. I did have to say to him, I was like, how do you feel if right now we just ask for a little pause? Like, are you down with that game plan of like, just for like a little bit, like maybe a day or two, we take a break. Ooh. And we, between one another as medicine man and medicine woman, and to universe, source, consciousness, divine, we just say just a little pause on the medicine, because like finding your way to like find the humor in it, to find the joy in the processes. Like there, in any one given nugget and scenario, there are infinite threads that are happening, and infinite threads in which are, like that are taking place for you to feel into. So it's like this crazy ass web. It's like trippy, and you have to try to laugh about it. You have to try to just stay patient with it, because it's trippy.
Well, I love that, because you honestly, it sounds like you are on your way of like something completely out of this world. It's that they always say that can't eat, can't sleep, reach for the stars, over the fence, World Series kind of stuff. Like that's what it sounds like. So amen. And
amen.
A namaste to that. That's beautiful. Okay, so living in a day of the hashtag Me Too movement. How can we heal as a society from this? We saw many women cry on TV once they learned their colleagues were fired for sexual harassment. How do we reconcile the nice guy we all know with the predator that was doing these awful things to innocent women? Any tips and guidance for those wanting to do the same? I feel like every other day there's some sexual harassment. It's like, what do we got here? Oh, okay, here's another one.
Every day.
And I feel like, we're in that day and age where there's so much truth. It's like, let's let truth. So now that the truth's out, what now? Right? Like, how do we heal from this as a society? And what about those women that may not be seen or don't know how to convert the nice guy that they once trusted to now hearing these things about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a part of this entire bigger healing process that we've been speaking about with what's going on a planetary level. This is another huge component and aspect of it. And I started to understand that this was at play about 7 months ago when I took a trip to Israel. And have you ever been?
No, never been.
Well,
I'm going. It's definitely on the bucket list.
Highly recommend. And so I was atop of a place called Masada, which are these ancient, ruins that sit up very, very high. You have to like hike up for a long time or take these like cable cars. And oh my goodness, wow. So I'm going to whittle this down. This was an unexpected moment for me because I knew Israel was going to be a life-changing trip for many different reasons, but for some reason, this day trip to Masada, I was thinking it was going to be more like the field trip adventure day where, beautiful landscape selfies and like ancient ruins, archaeological, and I just wasn't anticipating for
the power, right?
Yeah. And so what happened to me when I got up there, I was up there for a while. And I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes before this happened, but I was standing with two women that were on the trip with me. One is like a 5 times Aquarian, super awake, other level being. And this energy system started to rock and like move through me, unlike any energy system to this day that ever has. And I dropped my belongings onto the dirt, and I was just like moving with this energy. And it was taking through me on such an ancient level. I was like wailing these ancient wails, like these like gut-wrenching core wails. And the power was so ancient. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I'm looking at my friend, and she's holding space, and she's just like nodding and holding space. So I'm moving through it and like moving through it. And then when I wanted, where I had enough breath in a second to access it enough to ask, like, what is this? What was happening? What they were moving through me as an instrument and a vessel and conduit in that moment was I was clearing on a shamanic level thousands of years of the energy line of the ancient suppression energy of women. So like what they were using me to clear out from the planet was
chills. I have chills.
Yeah. So they were having me clear thousands of years of the ancient suppression of women energy. And I thought the process was done. So I then went to sit down, and I was sitting there with both of them, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then it started to move through a second round, and I cleared out more. And then after the clearing, they showed me these golden energy grid threads getting like brought in, not like lightning bolts. You could tell they were like golden energy lines, and they were getting woven in because now they had space to enter into the earth. Now they had room to come in because of the clearing that had happened. And what these golden threads are the energy threads of the honoring of the divine feminine. So these energies had started to make their way in and weave in about 7 months ago. And, there's like this process, even after I left Masada that day, and we ended up in the Ramon crater, and it was so powerful. So like this particular medicinal process was with me for like 24 hours straight. But after we left Masada and ended up in this crater at night, underneath the galaxies and the stars, I sat at a fire in the middle of this crater with like 4 Bedouin men, and they held space for me. They didn't know what was going on. Maybe some of them could tap in and felt, but I literally stood at this fire for like at least 2.5 hours with my left hand on my heart and my right hand on my sacral. And I just wept and wailed and wept and rocked and stood there for like 2 hours around this fire with these Bedouin men. It was just me and them. And these tears that were pouring out of me, it was unlike any other cry that I've had before. It was like just this river, this non-stop river. It was like I was crying for millions of women across thousands of years. So that all happened. And so
and let's just take that in for a second, because that's, wow, I just felt that so much. Whoa, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like for you.
There are no words.
Wow, you are a warrior, because just to have all of that, like, that's not even one woman. One woman carries so much, like, past things, like, that's everybody. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
wow.
Probably the most powerful day of my life. And so when I started to see the uprising then of this space that's being created for women to be in truth, and for women to be honored and revered again, when these stories started to rise and truth started to be spoken, I was, needless to say, not surprised. And I was like, wow, this is all part of this process. This is a vital, crucial component and aspect of the earth, of this planet, returning to wholeness and truth. It takes this key part of women being seen, and that in order for us to be seen again as the high priestesses and queens and goddesses and medicine women that we are, the mystics that we are, this piece has to get uncorked. And so I'm trusting in the process, but like with these men, it's also too like, you know, it's shadow work at play for them as well. And all I can hope for is that, again, the denial continues to disintegrate and the illusion continues to waft away with honor and thanks. And as the crystalline truth energies come in more and more for all, my prayer is that, you know, these men truly do that process of surrender and like truly begin their own evolutionary path of going within and understanding the root cause, you know, because it's within them, but it's planetary too, you know, like this energy system of oppressing women has been going on for thousands of years. So it's like there's a lot of layers within the men that they need to explore. And I think it's important that we hold positive, honoring space for them in that process. And it's not about chastising and pointing fingers, because, you know, all of these pieces, it's all a part of it. So it's like holding space and praying that they are courageous enough and willing enough to really go within and look within.
Wow, that is beautiful and profound. It's like almost as if like tapping back into that brotherhood, sisterhood, like we all kind of messed up. We all kind of are not perfect and we all have our own things that we have to work on. So if you did make that mistake, whatever mistake it was, and yeah, at the time it felt right or it felt great, and it's just like what we've just always known, the old paradigm of things, it would just be great to let you know that in this space, we are compassionate towards those things, but we're not working on saying we're going to just blame it on one another and just say, this is where it is. Like, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. This is more of like a oneness, right? That we can just say, this is what happened. How do we grow? How do we evolve? How do we move forward?
That is the key: growing, evolving, and moving forward. There are new portals that have been created for us. I entered into my own new personal portal in the last, you know, handful of days. And it's just like, yeah, that constant check of behavior wise, step forward wise, like all in all these ways, are you going to revert back to old program or continue entering into new portal? So it's happening for all of us in so many different ways. And the key is, yes, the choice to evolve and to look, and then holding compassionate, loving space for those that are doing that, because it takes a lot of courage.
Amazing. So now for our final question, what would you like to see more of in this world?
Well, it's interesting because each question
kind of like led to the other one, right?
Yeah, and it's like, well, we began to explore that in question 4. Yeah, it's a very lovely divine.
It's like a story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I would love to see more in the world. I mean, the first thing that came in was self-acceptance, because it's like, it all truly does begin within. And I know that for each person that has done the work to get to a place of self-realization and self-acceptance and self-love, like, I know what it took to get there. And I know that that person, everywhere they go, is just emanating higher consciousness and lifting and rising the frequencies, the vibrations of everywhere they go. So it's like, you don't have to be a shaman, a public shaman, or you know, a Buddhist monk to be a medicine person. Like, you are a medicine person by going within. And so I would love to see more in this world, people that are willing to do the brave inner landscape work. It's like what I started to feel really proud of, actually, when, you know, Marie Claire magazine
Yes, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You are, it's funny when I saw that, I was like, wow, she is the pioneer of mainstreaming what was it's what we've always known. It's what the ancients have taught us. It's everything that we've known. And you're the pioneer of bringing it into the collective mainstream. So shout out to you, because that is amazing, amazing, amazing.
Thank you. I felt that so deeply as you were saying that, like so deeply. Yeah, I got emotional over it. It's, I understand that I'm the conduit and the instrument and vessel, but I think it's important that we give ourselves credit too. Like, I'm the one with their full support and guidance, but like I'm choosing every day to do this work. And so it means a lot for me, to see this work going into places that it's never gone before. And what's most important is the fact that it's finally being honored. My work was named like the next big thing, and there was this pop-up shop in Soho, New York, created around these like experiences where I took people on these journeys, and it was every piece of it, from these like elixirs that were created just for the event, that had like incredible sacred ingredients in it, to the sacred scent that filled the room, to the journeys that we went on, to the immersive experience using the sound off experience headphone technology. It was just this all-encompassing immersive experience, and it was all about going within on the awakening path with Alyson Charles. And it's like, for the awakening path and the inward work to finally be given, like, this is the next big thing, like be given the applause, versus what we're conditioned in a society of like, who wins the race or who climbs the mountain, and all those awards and accolades being given to those external work. It's like, I'm just so freaking relieved and honored to start seeing these mainstream places giving accolades to the people that go within. So that's what I want to continue seeing, is just like people understanding the power and the place that inward work has on the planet. It is crucial and it is vital, and everything begins from there. You will never know who you are to your fullest capacity. You will never understand the deepest fulfillment you can possibly feel, and you will never get to know yourself on a mind, body, spirit, soul, full power level until you go within and do the work.
Amazing. Absolutely incredibly amazing. I feel like I just took like a hit of something. I'm like a completely sober person. I don't do anything. Like, I just live off of my own energy.
Yes.
And that in itself is a crazy, but just being part of your energy is like, wow, such an amazing experience. Thank you for everything that you do, because if you haven't heard it today, today is the day for you to hear it. Yes, you are absolutely a pioneer for what we truly do need. And the fact that you've made that sort of like me to the competition, the get the gold, to a we, like, let's get the gold. Let's get the golds of going within and getting that wisdom. Wow, that is just beyond beautiful. Alyson, you have been such an incredible person, soul being. I don't even know. I don't even think you have a label, because I think I think you are you in every form, but there's so much about you that has been brought to this interview, to this world. So please, no matter what, I hope that you take this and know that I'm super grateful for this, but there's so many people that are they're stepping into their path because you take the courage every day to step into yours.
OMG.
Thank you.
Oh man, hang on. Like that one. Oof. Thank you.
Amazing.
Wow. Thank you so much for, and I honor your tenacity and the path that you're on and what you're creating for delivering these messages out into the world as well. And I really saw and like respected in you, like your like your go get 'em, you know, determined energy around it. And I was like, okay, I see her, I feel her. So thank you. And this is like a funny, like it's a really silly little side note, but Gabriella, that was my Espanol name. And for many years when I took Spanish.
No way.
Oh yes, I was all about Gabriella.
Oh my God. Oh wow. I'm like, my cheeks are hurting from smiling so much. That is incredible. I do feel like, honestly, it's galactic family. I do.
Yeah.
I truly do.
For sure.
Thank you so much for being here. This concludes our interview. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. Love and light and blessings to all. We are here for one another, and we are just going even higher in this journey we call life. Blessings to all.
Aho.